Now your next step, once you've decided a niche, is obviously to look at a domain. You need some property on the internet. So this would be www.somethingcorother, depending on your niche, .com, org, info, net, .co.uk, .us, whatever it might be. There's lots and lots of different options, and it depends upon what you're targeting. If you're targeting a specific country market, so if I was targeting the UK only, I would go for .co.uk. The best you can get is a .com. The others are reasonable. If I can't get a .com, I'd go for .org or a .net. I'd avoid a .biz, and I'd definitely avoid a .info. Now .infos are very, very cheap, yes, but they tend to be sort of throwaway domains, so Google doesn't tend to rank them. I've tried getting some ranking, and I've honestly struggled with them. .coms, I can sneeze, and they're ranking in the search engines. .infos, you've really got to work at. So I'd recommend going for .com. If you can't do that, you want .org or .net. Those are the ones. So sometimes you've got to be a bit creative. So first of all, before you pick a domain, you've got to decide on your strategy. Now, there's two strategies with domains. The first is, well, three really. The first is you go for something weird and wonderful like Google, Amazon, eBay, something like that. Facebook. It doesn't tell you what it does. It gives you a rough idea. You know, it's just completely bizarre, and it's become a brand in its own right. So you could do that if you wanted to. That tends to require an awful lot of work to get ranking and an awful lot of work to get brand recognition. There's a lot of ones that fail. Twitter, for example, didn't mean anything until Twitter became Twitter, and then it became a word in itself. You know, you tweet something, things like that. Same with Google. Google's now a verb. I Google this, go and Google it, that sort of thing. So, you could try and create a brand like that, but as I said, it is difficult and requires more work. The other option is to go for a high-level keyword. So if I was promoting an LCD TVs, I might go for lcdtvreview.com, for example. Something very broad for my niche, and in that way I'll do many different products. So instead of having just one product on there, I'd have as many LCDs as I could fit with different manufacturers, different price points, and so on. Now, on top of that, you could go one level further down to the very tightly focused site, where instead of it being LCD TV reviews, it's a specific model. So it might be Samsung S50 LCDTV.com, for example, that sort of thing. So, how do we determine what keywords we want in our domain and so on? Well, we go to here. This is Google External Keyword Tool. Now we just type in these keywords here and hope we get them right. It doesn't happen very often. Before we move anything else, we change that to United Kingdom. I tend to always set global monthly searches to a minimum of 1,000. Anything less than that, you're not really getting a lot of traffic. So, to me, there's no point trying to rank for it. Not as my main keyword. I always change this to exact. I want to see exactly how many people are searching for this keyword, because quite often broad means it's anywhere in the search. So if my keyword is LCD TVs, if somebody types in anything that's got LCD TV in it, it appears here. But exact means people typing in exactly what you're looking for. So this gives you a much more precise idea of the traffic that you're getting. So let's put in our keyword. We're going to go for one of my favourites, worm farm, composting with worms. So we'll just put in 2 or 3 ideas, and then we click search, and we'll see what good old Google comes up with. Okay, so we can see here we've got for worm farm, there's 8,000 global searches. That's searches across the world. Almost 3,000 of those are within the United States. And here we have 65 other keyword ideas from them. So if we click on global monthly searches, what we'll do is we'll sort by this, and then we can go through and get a bit more idea of what we've got here. Okay, so we see we've got plenty on here. Let's have a look. We've got worm farm there. Compost Tumbler. That's not bad actually. Look at that. 8,000 and 5,000 with 5,500 within US. That's not bad at all actually. So let's try taking that keyword, and then we would go and see how much competition there is. So let's Google's obviously decided to do it for me. Let's just search it for in quotes, and there's 51,000. That's not bad. That's not bad at all actually. Right, that's better. So we see there's 288,000 competing sites. And you just have a quick look through, see what they are. None of them are. There's all sorts here. There's the Daily Telegraph, Amazon, so on. So yeah, that looks reasonable. That looks quite reasonable at all. Okay, so now we need to go and find what domain names are available. You can use GoDaddy or wherever. I go to Namecheap, and we just paste in our keyword, and let's have a look what's available. So you can see here that they're all taken. It's obviously very popular. Now what I could do is I could go off and look at some of the other keywords, or instead what I might do is say, well, actually what I could do is let's come up with something else. So let's add a word on the end. Now some people put letters on the end. I like to put words on if I can, because it just makes it a bit more realistic. So I might put Compost Tumbler advice. Okay, people are going to be looking for information on it. Let's just try info. See whether there's anything for info. Okay, we can see over here. I've just switched web host as Namecheap's having issues at the moment. That composttumblerinfo.com is available. So I would register this. Now this is GoDaddy, but I'm going to be really honest with you here. A lot of people say GoDaddy's good and cheap. No, I would disagree. GoDaddy is one of these places. It's very confusing. There's lots and lots of information on the pages. They're very busy. You know, there's all sorts of stuff everywhere. They don't just give you the information you want. They are constantly trying to sell you other stuff. You know, once I've added this to my cart and I go and register it, then suddenly it's going to be, you know, trying to give me all sorts of other information, trying to make me buy Whois Privacy, which is free for the first year with Namecheap. They're going to try, but costs extra here. They're going to try and sell me hosting and this, that, and the other, and it gets very, very confusing. I know people that cannot cope with GoDaddy because there's too much information. It's not easy, well laid out, and it's difficult to find things in. You have been warned. Namecheap I find to be very, very easy by comparison, but it's having some problems today for some reason. So then you got to just pick your domain. Once you've got your domain, you just add it to your cart and register it, and off you go. That's it, simple as that. And then once you've done that, you're going to have to get yourself some web hosting.